Welcome to Sobriety is Easy When We Find Ourselves. I'm your host, Julie Steiner. One of the joys and struggles of early sobriety is discovering who we are and piecing together who we want to be. Leading an intentional life, as we've talked about in the previous podcasts, with the tools we gave you there, gratitudes, no-shoulds, routine, positive cognitive maps. Those, along with what we are talking about today, forgiveness and identifying our positive attributes, builds a strong foundation to enjoy sobriety. Today's keys are identifying our positive attributes, practicing forgiveness, and using positive affirmations. We are examining our characteristics, our positive attributes, as we see them in our behavior or as we desire them to be. While we're not at the point of completing a fourth step, which is an inventory of our behaviors all throughout our life, as well as how other people may have treated us improperly. We are not doing that, but we are looking at the unpleasant thoughts that crop up on a daily basis. Two tools for handling these thoughts are forgiveness and positive affirmations. Both of these help us combat the stinking thinking that steals our hope and may lead us back to relapse. I want to start with identifying our positive attributes because it's my belief that each of us is on this earth for a purpose. And to fulfill that purpose, we need to use the positive characteristics that we have. When you have a strong sense of the good character that you have inside of you, then you're more easily able to combat any negativity from others, as well as from your own thoughts. It strengthens your boundaries to know that the negativity around you is associated with other people who happen to be there or the situation and not with you. The first step in identifying these positive attributes is to list 50 of your positive characteristics, with none of them being physical or performance qualities. Really don't care that you have beautiful brown eyes, because that's not what determines how you interact with me or how you perform the job I need you to do. The reason for not including performance is because typically when someone says you're good at something, there actually are several characteristics or attributes that allow you to be good at that thing. Those attributes are what's important. If something happens such that you're unable to perform the particular task, then the self-esteem that you attached to doing well is greatly diminished. People who identify as their job rather than using a perspective that they do their job runs into trouble when it's time for retirement, or if something happens and they can't perform the job anymore. Their self-worth is tied to the position rather than to themselves as a person. For example, people often tell me that I'm a good cook, possibly because we hand out free donuts to all adults who come to our door on Halloween. And who doesn't enjoy a hot donut, hot, out of the fryer on a cold October night? For someone to be a great cook, they most likely possess the following characteristics: attention to detail, creativity, curiosity, self-discipline, and follow-through, just to name a few. Someone who's a good friend, which is performance, most likely has the qualities of being empathic, kind, loyal, honest, and interesting, to name a few characteristics. Many people with whom I've discussed this exercise consider 50 to be extreme, protesting that they would need to Google characteristics to reach that number. I suggest that you first consider yourself in each of the roles that you play throughout a given week or month or year. You use certain characteristics when you interact with your spouse or significant other, and you use typically different characteristics when you interact with your children or with your neighbor or with your colleague at work or with a close friend, or with someone in your church, or with someone in an organization you interact with, or people in the grocery store. The list goes on and on. So think of yourself in each of those roles, and what are some positive attributes that you use while in those roles. If you still don't have 50, you can talk to friends and family and see if they have any that they want to add, or you can think about people that you admire. We admire people who have our quality but they have it in such a large measure that it's easily visible to us, and we don't realize we have it. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't even notice it in somebody else. For me, I pick a fictitious character, Superman. Superman has been my hero since I was a little girl because he can fly and he has X-ray vision. Two things I've always wanted to have. When I was in my therapy practice and when I've been in my classroom, the students and the clients have been amazed at how I can see through to their heart. And I can piece together things that they haven't talked about and give them insights that they are just baffled at. And I consider that my X-ray vision. I have an ability to see through what people are saying, to see their heart. My ability to fly comes in when I can be above the fray of negativity going on, whether it's close to me or I'm watching it on the news, whatever it happens to be, because I have very strong boundaries and I know who I am. So I can be above the fray, and then I can consider, do I have a role in this? Is there something that I need to adjust or change? Is there something I need to input? But the whole while I'm flying above it. Who do you admire? What is it about them that is special? Do you have a little bit of that in you? Add it to your list. It may take a few hours or a few weeks to complete the list. Put it somewhere you can easily access it and add to it as you discover the new attributes. If you need to, you can talk to others. Fun if you engage family or people who are in a close group with you, and all of you list 50 positive characteristics of one another. And perhaps you don't have time to do 50, maybe you want to do 20. That's fine. But the idea is to get other people who are doing this task as well. Because when you are hearing these positives from other people, it really lifts your brain to a positive state. And when you tell them positives about them, it really increases your relationship with them. It strengthens that bond that you have with them. It may be a good idea to post the list on the back of your closet door, or put 1 or 2, maybe 5 of the attributes on your mirror and change it out every week or every month. This will keep you in the mindset of a positive picture of yourself so that if negative thoughts come in, it's much easier for you to push them aside. If using thoughts come in, it's easier for you to talk them down because you have got this picture of yourself and this whole definition of yourself that is so positive. I want to give an example of a woman who was in depression. There were circumstances in her life that created this depression when she was in her 30s. She could not list anything positive, which is pretty typical of someone with depression. Couldn't even think of anything positive to say about herself. I started her off by giving her some positive things I had noticed in her, and she was not able to receive them. So what I did is I had her list 50 positive characteristics that she believed she had before she became depressed. She went home, and it took her a few weeks, but she was able to make that list. What we did from there was we checked the list out once a week to see if there had been any movement on any of the attributes. As she was working on herself in therapy, she was able to lift that veil of depression enough that she could start to see the positive in herself. It took her about a year to make the whole list a present-day list rather than a history list. This is a very powerful exercise. Highly recommend you do it. And an additional way of using the exercise is to, among your close friends, or if you are in a family that is functioning at a level that it makes sense to do this exercise, what you do is you state 1 to 5 positive attributes to each person each day. So a mother might tell her son, "Thank you so much for being so thoughtful and setting the table for dinner tonight." Being thoughtful was the attribute. A brother might tell his sister, "I so enjoyed your performance tonight. Your enthusiasm during the solo was so fabulous." Here it's her enthusiasm, the characteristic that was commented on. Once you start this practice, you'll be amazed at how you can identify people's positive characteristics and talk to them about them. If I have a performance item, I tell the bank teller, "You were so efficient in handling my bank transaction today. I really appreciate that. Thank you." Or you tell the store clerk, "I am just amazed at how swiftly you pass the groceries down there. You must be a very dedicated employee." Now, the second key is a crucial action in sobriety, and that is practicing forgiveness. Often we're hard on ourselves because of the devastation that our using created in our lives and the lives of those around us. First, forgiveness is an action and not a feeling. It is a decision to separate a person and who they are from actions they have taken that may have been harmful. When we forgive, we hold the person accountable for their actions as we let go of resentment toward them. Forgive and forget is not a healthy practice because that allows the behavior to be repeated. We want to forgive and let the memory be exactly that, a memory. It has no power over us. It is not a prediction of the future because we prepare ourselves. We protect ourselves from its reoccurrence. People who live with domestic violence often believe that they are doing the right thing by returning to the abusive mate because they've forgiven the perpetrator and therefore it ought not happen again. Forgiving someone doesn't change their behavior. It lightens your emotions. Sometimes the harm inflicted by someone is so devastating that it requires repeated episodes of forgiveness. When I began my sobriety journey, memories came when they wanted. So they might arrive at the boys' bedtime, while making dinner, while shopping. My friend in sobriety, who had over 50, taught me to get down on one knee and forgive myself at the moment or forgive the person I was having bad memories about at the moment. Even if the memory came when I was at the grocery store, I would get down on one knee, say the forgiveness quietly or to myself while pretending to tie my shoe or pick something up from the floor. Each time I did this, the burden of the past became lighter. I was so glad I was taking this step. Combining the physical activity with the forgiveness statement or prayer reinforces the impact on our brain. If we just think or say a silent prayer, when the thought returns, we'll get frustrated and feel like forgiveness doesn't work. There must be something wrong with us. Try this method for a month and see what you think. I have used this to change several behaviors, like being judgmental, being perfectionistic. It's really excellent. For Bible believers, the Bible says to forgive so that you may be forgiven. No one is perfect. When someone has done something that needs to be forgiven, I forgive them. Then decide if that person is good for me. Do they cross my boundaries frequently, even though I've expressed my wishes with respect to my boundaries? Have they demonstrated a willingness to change and grow? Is there anything I can do to improve the situation, or do I need to move on? As mentioned, forgiving ourselves is crucial. It's also difficult. After all, we are aware of our negative thoughts as well as our behavior. We know we were considering whether or not we get away with that bad behavior, in addition to doing the bad behavior. When I didn't want my husband to know that I'd been drinking a lot that day, I'd drink the vermouth plain, so it would decrease in the correct proportion to the whiskey, because we drank Manhattans, so the whiskey was always added to the vermouth. I needed to forgive myself for drinking to excess, for lying to my husband, for things I didn't get done because I had been drinking. and for planning that drink. We often attach self-condemnation when we do, think about, or desire something that in our belief system is wrong. This judgment that we accept is what makes self-forgiveness so difficult. Clearly, we don't deserve forgiveness because we wanted this, whatever the transgression was or is. That thinking cements our feet to shame, which tells us that we're a bad person. So self-forgiveness must deal with the shame as well as the transgression. Shame tells us that we are bad. Guilt tells us that we did bad. Thus, shame is about our being, who we are. Guilt is about our behavior. It is easier to forgive others because we're forgiving their behavior and their choice to perform the behavior. When we forgive ourselves, we think we need to improve ourselves and prove that we are good, not bad, because we can forgive the behavior after we know we're a good person. This is so wrong thinking. Behavior is only one component of who you are. It does illustrate what you believe or want in a situation. It may not represent your soul or your true beliefs. Addiction has physical components beyond our control until we learn enough to combat it. Just like you learn how to inject insulin, control your diet, and exercise to control diabetes, you can learn tools to overcome addiction. You're not a horrible person for being an alcoholic or addict. You are a person who has not implemented the necessary behaviors and mindset to combat the problem. These podcasts are meant to give you tools to do that. Your desire to forgive demonstrates the goodness in you that doesn't want the bad anymore. Remember, talking badly about someone is a behavior. When you think something bad about someone, you can do the exercise, get down on one knee, ask forgiveness, forgive yourself, and get back up before you actually have a chance to say the negative. So you're ahead. After a few months of getting down on one knee, no matter where I was, to forgive whatever was coming into my head at the time, I didn't need to do it. Because as soon as I started thinking something negative, I moved my mind to something else so I wouldn't finish the negative thought. I became so positive. It's wonderful. If you've chosen a higher power, I hope that your higher power is into forgiveness and not condemnation. If you believe the Bible, it says that our sins are as far from us as east is from west. Psalm 103, verse 10. One of my characteristics is to question things, which comes from a need to protect myself, not from arrogance. I don't want to make a mistake or be wrong because I desperately need to avoid the consequence, not because I think it's possible to be perfect. So I would think that maybe I was right in the line that was the boundary line between east and west, which meant if I stood on one side, I was convicted. If I stood on the other side, I was forgiven and free. So east and west were actually not that far apart. I let go of that thinking and decided forgiveness meant that I couldn't even see the negative anymore because I was on the Atlantic Ocean and the negative was on the Pacific Ocean, so far away. The final key for today is positive affirmations, which were mentioned in the first podcast because a negative thought life is a common issue of relapse for addicts and alcoholics. When we gain control of our thinking, two important things happen. First, when thoughts of using enter, we can quickly tell it no and move on to something else. Second, when negative thoughts about who we are, shame, come into our head, we can use positive affirmations or reality checks to blow the thought away. We have more energy, more hope, more time. I've always taught that positive affirmations are an exaggerated statement that is the opposite of your negative belief. For example, if your negative self-talk is, I'm overwhelmed and don't have enough time for anything. Instead, the positive would be, I am fully engaged in life and my efficient organization allows me to be present at all times. It doesn't have to be true at the moment. Your reticular activation system, RAS, will help you make it true. Your negative belief might be, I'm tired all the time. I just can't sleep. Instead, the positive would be, I am highly energetic, active, and engaged in life. I enjoy a pleasant, restful sleep each night. In fact, say that last sentence 10 times before going to sleep. I enjoy a pleasant, restful sleep each night. The concept behind positive affirmations states that our beliefs feed our feelings, which feed our actions, which refeeds the beliefs. Using the first belief, I'm overwhelmed and don't have enough time for anything. Consider how that makes you feel. Possibly you'd feel frustrated, hopeless, powerless. What actions would you take? You might choose one of the stress responses from fight, flight, or freeze and simply watch TV or play games or sleep the day away. You may isolate so no one else will ask any more of you. Negative beliefs generate negative feelings, which generate negative actions. Let's change the belief. The exercise for you is to identify a negative belief and the associated feelings and actions. Then write out a positive affirmation that is positive, specific, and opposite of the negative belief. For the one just mentioned, I'm overwhelmed and don't have enough time for anything. We could say the positive belief is I'm fully engaged in life and my efficient organization allows me to be present at all times. If that's your positive belief, how would you feel? Possibly energized, empowered, confident, grateful. Feeling that way, what actions would you take? Possibly address what's in front of you. Reach out to others. You can see how the positive belief would support a sober life, while the negative belief returns us to our addictions. Your affirmations can be as simple as, I am a strong woman of character, or I'm a strong man of character. Or they can be more lengthy, such as, today's a new day. With God, all things are possible. He will help me do what needs to be done. One more major point about positive affirmations. Research has discovered that we internalize things as true when we connect them to an emotion. Our brains are wired to give more weight to information that is emotionally charged. So when we experience something with a strong emotional component, our brain is likely to perceive it as true and important. So emotional experiences triggering the release of neurotransmitters that strengthen neural connections, making our memories more vivid and impactful. Now, since physical activity can enhance the perception of truth in certain experiences or information, it can be helpful to engage enthusiasm and move your body while reciting the positive affirmation. I've been known to march around the room and state my affirmation loudly, like the town crier who rang the bell while marching through the streets to announce the time of day. I like exaggerating like that. When we engage in positive activities, our bodies release chemicals that enhance our learning and memory consolidation, specifically dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and BDNF, neurotransmitters and growth factors that can boost mood and cognitive function. This heightened state of awareness and engagement can make experiences feel more vivid and real, potentially leading to a stronger belief in the associated information. I highly recommend that you state the positive affirmation 10 times in the morning, 10 times at night at a minimum, as stated in the first podcast. That reinforcement of that positive will fight the years of negative that you have heard from others or told yourself. Let's not take years to make a positive thought life. Another podcast comes to an end after adding to our foundation by building who we want to be through today's keys of positive characteristics, forgiveness, and positive affirmations. I hope these pieces of the sobriety path will make it easier for you. For those of you who are not alcoholics or addicts, I hope you took away a nugget. I look forward to sharing additional tools next week. Please join me on this miraculous path.